All right, we're back, and we got something different for you today. Today, we're painting an Elite Series 2 controller faceplate. So let's jump in. For those of you that don't know, Thor, aka Fran, his favorite character is Thor, the god of thunder. So I thought it'd be nothing better than to paint him a faceplate for his controller that he uses day in and day out on Xbox. So we're going to jump in, we're going to prep the controller, we're going to paint it. I got this design where it's just going to say Thor, got a hammer, got some lightning. So we're going to get to it, we're going to see how it turns out. I've never airbrushed lightning, I've never finished painting a controller before. I have a couple in the works, but this is going to be the first one that I do from start to finish, and we're going to see how it turns out. So let's jump in and take a look. Alright, so much like the regular controller, I used plastic adhesion promoter, which turned out to be a problem. So the Elite Series 2 faceplate is not plastic, and when you use the plastic adhesion promoter, it instantly crystallizes. So I tried to primer over it, but that didn't work. So I had to sand it down the best that I could, get as much of it off as I could, and then I had to re-primer it. Now once I was done with that, I used some opaque blue. This is just from the USA Art Supply. I mixed in a little bit of black, which ended up being too much black. As you can see, it was only a couple drops, but it was too much and it made it too dark. It didn't even bother me that it was so dark, it bothered me that it was less blue. I wanted a little bit more blue in it, so I added more opaque blue. Then I just added some reducer just to make it easier to spray through the airbrush. Came out with a nice dark blue, which is what I was going for. So then I start laying down the paint. I try to do, thin coats. I want to cover the primer, but I know I'm going to do several coats, so I'm not worried about how thick it is at first. As you can see from this angle, we start to darken it a little more. I try to make sure I get the edges really well. See, my whole idea for this was just to layer the paint on. I just want to lay it on, coat after coat, nice and even. I mean, there might have been a couple parts that was a little heavier than others. As you can see, it left those white dots. So I had to go over that a little bit. And then I continue to just coat it. Make sure it's nice, even, dark blue. See, around the buttons, that's exactly what the color I was going for, that deep, dark blue. As you can see, it was a bit rainy when I did this, so it took a little extra time to dry. I also used the air gun, just using the air to try and help it dry a little faster as well. So I didn't have to wait as long in between coats. As you can see, we're starting to get that nice dark blue color. And now we're going to start in on the lightning. So for the lightning, I watched several tutorials. And they said to start with a thin white, but like a wide berth of it, more or less. And then you go in with a fine detail brush. So right here, I was just going over it with some thinned out white, just to give the outline of the lightning. Because like when lightning goes through the sky, it gives like a glow around the bolt of lightning. So this is more or less the glow I was trying to go for. This was my first time doing lightning. I messed it up a little bit, I think, but I mean, I didn't mess it up, but it didn't quite come out the way I wanted, basically. Overall, I don't think it was terrible, but I just had a different vision for it, and then when I actually went to do it, I just didn't come out with what I wanted. So that's just me going over it again, just trying to give a little bit thicker of a hue or glow to the lightning. So now this was the part I was talking about with the detail brush. Now some people also use toothpicks. I never used a toothpick before to do this, so I figured I'd try I never did lightning before either, but I figured I'd try the brush first. So I used a small, thin detail brush, and all I'm doing is literally drawing a harsh lightning line down through the glow. The other thing I think I had an issue with the lightning was I made it too intricate. Like, I didn't start out with that idea, but then I just kept messing with it, and then it should have been a little more simplistic. Like, see, as you can see, I get real detailed there, and I don't think it necessarily needed it. I just went a little bit overboard with the lightning. As you can see, though, the detail brush does a decent job with, you know, the thin, narrow strokes. But some people live by the toothpick. I might try that next time if I do lightning again. But as you can see, it didn't turn out bad. It wasn't great. Now, you could go one or two ways here. After you do get to this point, you could either go over it again with a real thin white to give it that ghost outline, or you could go over it with a color. I opted to go over it with some transparent blue. So with the transparent colors, instead of the opaque, if you go over it over and over, you can build the color, like a deeper, darker color. So I started with the blue, and I went real light, and then I just kept layering it on until I got the color I wanted. And once I was happy with it, I brought it upstairs, peeled off the tape to reveal the... Luckily, the grips are still pristine and not paint covered. And now what I'm going to do coming up is I'm going to go over the lightning once more with a white and the fine brush. And I'm just going to try and trace my lightning just to make it stand out against the blue. Because as you can see, it kind of gets washed out a bit with the blue. The blue looks great. It makes it look like blue lightning. But now we have to go back and get the core of the lightning and brighten it up with some solid opaque white. It was a little tough for me to stay steady trying to trace some of these very tiny lines. Especially down near the grip. I really did not want to get any more paint on there. As you can see on the left side of the controller, some of the paint did get in that little groove between the grip and the faceplate part. So I actually do end up going down through that groove with just a flat black, just to cover that up. I mean, I could have left it the way it is, but I just feel like a flat black going down through that like pipe area just gives it a cleaner look. Now this is where I use the stencils. So I made these stencils using a Cricut machine, which cuts out vinyls and stickers and all kind of other stuff. And I simply made Thor, and I left the O off on purpose because I wanted to use the circle Xbox light up logo of the controller as the O, if that makes any sense. So what I did was I actually wanted to go with a silver. I thought this kind of was like silver, and it wasn't. It ended up coming out as a like sparkle graphite. So I wish I would have went a little bit lighter on this part, because you'll see in a minute it's kind of washed out a little bit. It's a little bit hard to see. I think it pops nice, but I wish I would have went with more of a silver instead of this like graphite color, because you can see right there how dark it is. I think it turned out pretty well. And then when you have your controller on, the Xbox logo makes the O. And I just use a matte finisher. I wanted to use a shiny finish, but Thor loves matte. Fran loves the matte, so I figure I go with the matte look. And as you can see from the finished product here, I think it turned out pretty well. I ended up going over the Thor with a little bit of white just to make it pop. But that was the finished product. And that's gonna do it. As you can see from this picture, this is the final product in Fran's hands. He got it on his controller, and he says he loves it. So thanks for watching. Be sure to check us out again. We'll see you on the next one.